friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Ukraine, about its energy sector. The situation there is critical. During the previous 24 hours, after another Russian massive attack on the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, we received lots of interesting statements and articles. Most regions of Ukraine will experience power outages all day tomorrow, so on the 9th of November of 2025, according to Ukrenergo. The outages will last from 12 a.m. to 11 p.m. and will occur in stages 2-4. The restrictions will last until the end of the next day. Another important statement is that all state-owned thermal power plants in Ukraine have been shut down, with no electricity generation currently taking place, according to the state company Centrenergo. Furthermore, according to information we have, currently Ukraine suffers huge problems with internet. Internet outages in several regions of Ukraine were caused by power outages following a massive attack on the power grid overnight. Poltava Oblast is the worst affected region. Furthermore, during the night, we received lots of videos and details about blackouts across Ukraine. So this is the city of Kiev. The city is completely covered with darkness. No lights, just generators, and some apartments, some places have electricity because they have probably their own generators or something like this. In this video we can see the city of Kiev from another angle. We have light just generated by cars and nothing more. Furthermore, during the previous night, we received updates that Ukrainians suffered huge problems with electricity and power outages on the territory of the city of Zaporozhye. Here we can see the city itself. People are walking on the street without any electricity, without any light. As we discussed, cars are the only source of light in big cities of Ukraine, mainly in the central part and in the eastern part of the state. Furthermore, huge problems with electricity were recorded on the territory of the city of Kharkiv. First, the sources are saying that this picture occurred, so some explosions were recorded above some substation or above some object of critical infrastructure, and right after we can see complete darkness. Power went out in Kharkiv after powerful glow erupted at the power facility. So we can see the situation here is also very critical. Furthermore, we received this video from the territory of the Slobozhanska power plant. And as you can see, these are the first minutes or first hours of another Russian massive attack across Ukraine. The Slobozhanska power station was damaged, as you can see. There is a fire and special services are trying to stabilize the situation. Furthermore, we have video from the settlement of Grebobinka. As for this video, this attack took place yesterday on the 8th of November, and this time the Russians were attacking not the energy facilities. The Russians attacked the railway station. Most likely the Ukrainians were trying to bring additional forces in the direction of the city of Sumy to the line of combat contact, but the railway station was completely destroyed. So once again, Ukraine is entering the most probably dangerous and the most difficult part of the special military operation, the winter of 2025-2026, and of course the Russians and Russia will try to make everything they can with the purpose to force Ukraine to accept Russia's demands and to capitulate. So the winter is going to be very long, and we are still not in the winter. It's late autumn, November, so up to 4 or 5 months of darkness can take place on the territory of Ukraine. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of very interesting updates. The sources are saying that the Russians, when they finished the battle for the settlement of Uspenovka and the Uspenovka fortified area, began advancing further in the southwestern and in the western directions. Currently, there are very heavy clashes for the settlements of Nova and Novouspienovska. We have also small update on the ground according to neutral mappers. So the Russians are trying to capture this dense network of the fortifications with these villages. If Russians can do this, then this is going to be obviously a very, very critical sign and critical warning to the city of Gulyai Polye. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the area of the city of Pokrovsk. During the previous 12 hours, we had additional changes on the ground. So this is the situation by the end of the 8th of November of 2025, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 9th of November of 2025. According to different sources, the Russians during the previous 24 hours managed to improve their positions once again. Furthermore, during the previous 12 hours, several pro-Russian sources reported that currently there are up to 2,000 soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine that are blocked on the territory of Mirnograd, and the Russians are trying to do everything they can with the purpose to force these 2,000 soldiers to surrender. The Russians don't want to destroy them, they want to encircle them, and they want to block them on the territory of Mirnograd, and then the Russians want to make lots of videos of how thousands of Ukrainians surrender to Russians. Most likely Putin will use this video and this situation for his personal political goals, and probably he will show this video to the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, and most likely if Ukraine loses the city of Pokrovsk with thousands of prisoners of war, we can expect that the Western countries, and first of all the United States of America, will reduce supply and support of Ukraine and its army. So this is the task and this is the plan of the Russian Federation. Furthermore, we continue receiving different updates and different videos from different parts of the Pokrovsk agglomeration, where we can see Russian soldiers who are trying to build bases, their positions, which means that the Russians have a very strong control of some points and some parts of the entire Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration. In this video, we can see a block post, a checkpoint that was created by Russians in the southern part of the city of Pokrovsk, so right exactly at this point. And this video shows us a strong control over the territory by Russians. The Ukrainians continue counterattacks, but these counterattacks don't lead to anything. The Russians continue expanding their positions between Mirnograd, Grishina, and Rodinska, trying to create a very huge buffer and a very huge gap zone between cities and between Ukrainian positions, with the purpose to reduce chances for the armed forces of Ukraine to carry out successful counterattack. The pro-Ukrainian sources continue denying the situation, the reality. They continue saying that the situation is under control, that yes, the Russians are they're present at the territory of Pokrovsk, but there are just several hundred. Zelensky says that there are less than 400 soldiers of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, but the question is how 300 or 400 soldiers of Russia managed to encircle up to 2,000 soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine. So this is the situation. Let's wait and see what is going to be next, but obviously the days are already counted for the city of Mirnograd and Pokrovsk. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Siversk-Liman direction. We haven't been receiving anything from this area for a very long period of time, and today we received a very important map update. So as you can see, the map around the city of Siversk has been changed, and this change was confirmed by video. So here we can see the map by the end of the 8th of November of 2025, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 9th of November of 2025. As you can see, we have adjusted huge territories between railways, city of Siversk and Novoselovka. Furthermore, we see that Russian troops most likely answered this dense network of the fortifications, and now the Russians are trying to clear this territory and to shorten the lines between the northern and the southern flanks. So this is the video that was published by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how the soldiers and units of the armed forces of the Russian Federation were clearing this dense network of the fortifications. So here we can see FPV drone attacks, but at this very moment we can see a Russian soldier, this is him, who dropped a grenade on the position of the armed forces of Ukraine, and this episode took place exactly at this point. And this is a very important moment. Now we see that most likely the battle for the city of Siversk has begun. I would like to remind you that several days ago we got first report that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to answer the southern part of the city of Siversk. Now the Russians started clearing this dense network of the fortifications, and it seems, and most likely within the next 2 or 3 weeks, the Russians will try to capture everything along this red line, and this is going to be the beginning of the battle for the city of Siversk itself, for its main part. We don't think that Ukrainians will be able to show huge resistance to the armed force of the Russian Federation, and most likely, and probably even within this year, by the end of 2025, the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from this territory. It's still unclear the situation with the Liman direction. We stopped receiving any updates from this territory as well. It seems that the Russians are regrouping. They're preparing themselves before the beginning of another major offensive operation with the purpose to establish the control over the city completely. But as of now, we just received lots of videos of how Russians were attacking and destroying Ukraine vehicles with FPV drones. More and more sources, more and more reports are coming from the territory of the Barova direction. We haven't been receiving from this territory almost anything for ages or something like this. Today we are receiving more and more updates that the Russians continue their offensive operation deep inside of the Barova direction with the purpose to get the river Voskol in the area of the city of Voskol, around the city of Izum. In this video we can see how Russians were destroying Ukrainian vehicles, engineering equipment with the purpose to slow down the fortification process of the armed forces of Ukraine. Furthermore, today more and more sources are saying that the Russians advanced further in the direction of the settlements of Karovy Yar and Alexandriivka. It seems that both villages would be captured by Russians in coming days. Furthermore, we are getting more and more updates from the Boguslavka tactical direction. This is how exactly the Russians are calling this area. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes were recorded according to different mappers. Furthermore, as we can see, based on the number of geolocations from this territory, we can make a conclusion that the Russians brought additional FPV drone crews in this direction with the purpose to destroy as many as possible positions of the armed forces of Ukraine, which will allow the stormtroopers of Russians to continue advancing further. It seems that the days of settlement of Boguslavka are also counted. And it's logical, the Russians obviously before moving further, before possible movement further deep inside of the Kharkiv region, first of all gonna need to secure the Barova direction as well and completely to establish complete control over the Russian side of the river Voskol. As for the Kupiansk direction, the Russians continue their offensive operation on the western bank of the river and on the eastern bank of the river. Just would like to remind you that yesterday, according to different mappers, by the end of the 8th of November of 2025, the Russians controlled already up to 52% of the city of Kupiansk, and now we see that the Russians continue advancing. So obviously the Russians are just in the middle of this offensive operation, but obviously this situation will be finished also very soon. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds you condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.